A local band in 1992 from Los Angeles, California released their self-titled album. And in 2003, the album was ranked 368 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. They're well known for their leftist, anti-authoritarian, and revolutionary political views fusing with heavy guitars and funky grooves. The closer track Freedom leaves a memorable one-liner that solidified them for the last 30 years. Your anger is a gift. In biopsychology, emotions are more or less begin inside two almond-shaped structures in our brains which are called the amygdala. The amygdala is the part of the brain that's responsible for identifying threats to our well-being and for sending out an alarm when threats are identified that results in us taking steps to protect ourselves. In the film, Chrissy is wounded and finds out Pita is dead. The expression changes and so his demeanor. We didn't see those pearly whites during the second half of the movie. The only emotion he showed was anger. The prefrontal cortex of our brain is located in the back of the forehead and can keep our emotions in proportion. The amygdala handles emotion and the prefrontal cortex handles judgment. The anger he's feeling manifested and passed judgment to everyone involved in the kidnapping. The Grim Reaper's rampage was hostile and ruthless. He didn't stop until everyone's dropped dead. In the closing moments of the film, that anger he felt wind down and he slowly started to relax back toward to homeostatic state. Because the girl was alive and for her to get back, they traded his life for hers. What happened there, the adrenaline caused arousal that occurs during anger lasted for a while until that reveal. It lowered his anger threshold the more he knows she's alive, and it completely dissolved when they meet in the bridge for the exchange. Schachter's singer theory suggests that the physiological arousal comes first and then the individual must identify the reason for his arousal to experience and label it as an emotion. This theory fits well in the last scene. The look on John's face happy to see the girl alive and well.
As we all know, emotions are mainly involuntary. It shows directly how we feel. Facial expressions are a big part of this, as we as humans recognize it as it can help us gain social information that we will learn from social interactions. Proposed independently by psychologists William James and Carl Lang, the James Lang theory of emotions suggested that emotions occur as a result of physiological reactions to events. In other words, this theory proposes that people have a physiological response to environment stimuli and that their interpretation of that physical response then results in an emotional experience. The bodily changes flow directly the perception of the exciting fact and that our feelings of the same changes as they occur is the emotion. Strong emotion activates ANS and hormonal systems, which provides fuel for the mechanism of aggression. This is shown in the movie Man on Fire, where he is slowly falling into deep depression against the backdrop of a seemingly endless string of violent abductions in bustling Mexico City. The former U.S. Marine Corps officer and now a burnt-out heavy drinker, John Creasy, hesitantly accepts a new job as a personal bodyguard of a 9-year-old Rita Ramos. Little by little, the distant tactic turned gun for hire will surprisingly find a new purpose in life. However, when John fails to protect the young girl from a blood-drenched kidnapping operation, his whole world crumbles into dust. Now a war against everyone involved in Pita's abduction is the only solution. Who can stand in the way of a man on fire? The strong emotion and will to protect this young girl puts fire in his heart, which made him react the way that he did in the said film.
Emotion is a physiological experience with behavioral expression of feelings in response to any sensory information. The behavioral changes include musculoskeletal autonomic and endocrine responses. There are four kinds of basic emotions: happiness, sadness, fear, and anger, which are differentially associated with the three core affects: reward for happiness, punishment for sadness, and stress for fear and anger. For example, Mr. John Creasy smiled and he was happy when he saw that Lupita Ramos won the swimming competition, and they were just happy because everything they worked hard for in practice result in the child winning. And another example was when Mr. Christie heard that the transaction between the police and the kidnapper was not successful, and when he also heard that Lupita was allegedly killed because ransom was not given properly and the kidnapper's nephew was killed, he was very angry and sad because of what happened, and he didn't hesitate to find the people who's involved in the kidnapping, and he punished the people who had been involved in the kidnapping of Lupita.
Man of Fire is a 2004 drama, action, and thriller film. This movie has a mixture of sad, emotional, and action parts. What I like and observe in the movie is the close bond or friendship formed between Pita and Chrissy. In the beginning of the storyline, Chrissy didn't really want to even try to be friends with Pita. He just wanted to do his job and that's all. It was as if he had to put a huge wall between him and Pita. But Pita was able to break through that wall and become really good friends with Chrissy. Watching Man of Fire is such a huge roller coaster of feelings and emotions. With regards to our topic, emotion is a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationship with others. Emotion are mental states brought by our neurophysiological changes, variously associated with our thoughts, feelings, and behavioral responses. It is a reaction that human beings experience in response to events or situations. According to the American Physiological Association, the type of emotion a person experiences is determined by the circumstance that triggered the emotion. Emotions are the reaction to stimuli, but feelings are what we experience as a result of emotions. When we are experiencing emotion, a number of internal change takes place, which are mainly involuntary. Observation of the emotion arousing stimulus produce activity in the cortex of the brain, particularly the hypothalamus. The perception of an emotion arousing stimulus brings about physiological changes involving the autonomic nervous system and the endocrine system. In psychology, emotion is often defined as a complex state of feelings that result in physical and physiological changes that influence thoughts and behavior.
In conclusion, although external events frequently cause emotions, not everyone reacts to the same event with the same set of emotions. A person's emotional state is a result of a combination of physiological arousal and psychological interpretation. Embodied emotion is the physiological arousal and somatic reaction associated with feelings. The intensity of emotion is influenced by physiological arousal. Stronger bodily reactions are connected to stronger emotions. The gap between slightly irritated and angry can be significant. This could explain why people become more aggressive when they are hot or uncomfortable. People may react to little situation with extreme rage rather than seeing the aggravation and discomfort as different causes. Physical arousal, body posture, and movements, and facial expression are all nonverbal ways of expressing emotions. Body language is nonverbal communication that is expressed through gestures, postures, and motions, either deliberately or involuntarily. A facial expression is an emotional motion or posture of face muscles. The majority of people are acutely aware of emotional messages sent by body language and facial expression. Tone of voice, volume, and rate of speech also convey emotions. Often people experience emotions they do not want to reveal to others. Embarrassment, wrath, fear, sadness, envy, and disdain are all common feelings that people try to hide. The majority of people are unable to completely suppress nonverbal expressions of emotions. Nonverbal leakage involves revealing an emotional state through the body language or facial expression despite a desire to conceal the emotion. For example, in the film Man on Fire, John discovers Pita's death in order to exact revenge for the kid's murder. He expresses his anger by killing the kidnappers who murdered the little girl. That is the emotion he expresses in the film. Only once arousal has occurred does a person perceive an emotion. Arousal patterns are linked to many emotions. The experience, backgrounds, and cultures of people influence their interpretation. As a result, even though their circumstances are comparable, people may have diverse emotional experiences. The physical and cognitive aspects of emotions are given varying degrees of prominence in various theories of emotion.